Good afternoon. My name is Lil Tuttle. I'm Education Director at the Clare Boothe Luce Policy Institute. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you three ladies, three anchors of PolitiChicks.com, and the authors of a new book, What Women Really Want. And there will be copies back there for you to get. I would strongly recommend it. To my, we'll just introduce them one at a time. We'll start with Morgan. On your left, Morgan Brittany has been a film, television, and stage actress for over 50 years.
As a child, starting as a child.
Beginning as a small child in such films as The Birds and Gypsy. She has appeared in over 150 television shows as a little girl in My Three Sons, and in The Andy Griffith Show. By the way, she was Opie's first love. And she went on to become a member of the cast of the enormously successful TV series Dallas, which some of you may not only remember, but be avid fans of. Since coming out as a conservative in 2001, Morgan has appeared on Sean Hannity and many other conservative radio and television shows as a passionate and enthusiastic promoter of America and her greatness. Dr. Gina Loudon is a psychology expert. She holds 2 master's degrees and 1 PhD in the field. And she is also the host of Smart Life with Dr. Gina, a daily television and radio show. She has appeared on a variety of TV networks, from Fox News to Al Jazeera. She goes where few others tread. Not surprisingly, at least I don't think you'll be surprised, she recently appeared on Right Wing News list of the hottest female conservatives in new media.
Yeah, love that.
What Women Really Want is Dr. Gina's second book. She also co-authored Ladies and Gentlemen,
Why the Survival of Our Republic Depends on a Revival of Honor.
There you go. She has seen the inner workings of the political system, spending 14 years with her husband, Senator Gina Loudon, in the Missouri state capitol. She didn't start the culture wars, but she'll be happy to help them finish. And she moved to Southern California in 2012 to fight that battle on the front lines. Ann-Marie Murrell is the original PolitiChick, and she is CEO and editor-in-chief of PolitiChicks.com, which has been nominated or was nominated at the CPAC 2013 conference as the People's Choice Blogger of the Year. She is a columnist for WorldNet Daily, a contributor to the Daily Caller, Front Page Magazine, The Blaze, and more. Ann-Marie is a frequent guest on radio and television, representing the conservative viewpoint on such venues as the Dr. Phil Show. You may also have seen her on Fox News, Blaze TV, the Dennis Prager Show, the Janine Turner Show, and dozens of others, radio and television shows. Ann-Marie is one of the go-to conservative reporters in the Los Angeles areas, and she was one of the last reporters to have the privilege of interviewing Andrew Breitbart. I'm going to introduce you now to the PolitiChicks and Jason, who is, what do you call yourself, Jason?
Chupacabra.
That's it. That's it.
Who will moderate. There you go.
Thank you, Jason.
All right, so I get to hang out with these ladies, and it's kind of a good job. I like it. It's pretty fun. You know, I get to get them all the things that they need, make sure they get to places on time and that sort of thing. Sometimes I make them late, though. And, you know, get them food if they need it, or eat the extra food that's left over when they have extra, you know, that sort of thing.
That's true.
So anyway, I
And we
want to...
pay him with beer.
Yes. But I do want to start this off by letting Ann-Marie read the introduction to the book. Very short introduction that Ann-Marie wrote. It's just entitled, just one letter, R.
Happy to be here with all of you. Thanks for having us. R. Once upon a time, a group of people created the most perfect product ever made. This product could literally change the world if people would simply put it to use. They called this product R. They built a building around R, and they filled the building with wonderful, patriotic people who were trained to sell R. Instead of advertising or using a large sign, they attached a very small, very tasteful R onto the front of the building. When some of the younger R people questioned this, they were told, "Our product doesn't need anything big and flashy to sell it. After all, it is the perfect product." The problem with this marketing strategy, or lack thereof, was that across the street from R was their main competitor, known as D. The creators of D also had a building, but in front of theirs was a giant rotating D, lit up with thousands of shining neon lights. Inside their building, they employed young people of all nationalities, speaking all languages. And throughout the years, they developed new technology and new ways of getting their D message out there. They created things like Facebook and Twitter, and as soon as they got bored with those, they started creating even newer ways to get their message across. In front of the D building, young sign spinners tossed signs high into the air to generate attention. Others called out to people as they passed by, "You don't even need to come inside. Here's a free cell phone for you. All you have to do to thank us is give us a call before the elections, or better yet, we'll call you to remind you who to vote for." And when children walked past the D building on their way home from school, D employees gave them free laptops, telling them, "Be sure to tell your parents the Ds gave this to you, because unlike those evil Rs across the street, we love children and we care about your education." One day, a couple of savvy young college students wandered into the D building. These young men had actually read their Constitution and Bill of Rights, and they understood fully well what the Ds were doing. When they asked, "Who's paying for these cell phones and laptops?" they were told, "You sound like those evil Rs across the street." So the savvy young college kids went across the street, and they learned the truth about the perfect product stored inside the R building. But sadly, they saw that instead of fighting back against the lies being told by the Ds, the Rs were trying to change their product to make it into something the D customers might someday want to buy. The young men said, "No, stop. You don't need to change your product. It's perfect. And we can help you get the word out to the people. We can help you design new technology and spread your message." One of the older, more established Rs said, "Ah, how cute. We love young people. We're going to put you right to work answering phone calls at our phone bank and putting stamps on our mailers." The young men looked over at the dusty rotary telephones and the stacks of papers, shrugged their shoulders, and they left the R building. The young men They went down the street and saw another building with a red, white, and blue TP out front. A TP worker said, "We believe in the Constitution, lower taxes, smaller government, and a free market system." So one of the young men shrugged and said, "I'm in." The second young man went a little farther down the road and saw another building with a giant L out front. A few college kids said, "We believe in the Constitution and we want to legalize pot and prostitution." The second young man said, "I'm in." As both men entered their respective TP and L buildings, they looked back at building R. A tumbleweed was rolling across the empty parking lot, and a cobweb had formed on the very small, very tasteful R out front. Both men felt sadness, knowing that no matter what those other new people said, the Rs once had the perfect product. The end. Thank you.
That's awesome. Very cute, but kind of sad, isn't it?
It is sad, but
Yes.
it's still a message of hope. We still have the perfect product. We just have to learn to market it a little tiny bit better.
All right, and we're going to get to how we can market that here in a little bit. I do want to show a little video right now about showing what the PolitiChicks have been up to lately. and it'll show you a little bit about why they got in so much trouble with the radical feminists.
Turning point. This year has been a turning point, not just for women, but for men as well. Because everything that we've seen going on around the world, I think the attention focused on ISIS, I think the attention focused on the illegal border crossings and how that's affecting parents with schools, children coming into their communities. I think all of these things are much more important to men and women than the old rhetoric that the Democrats were using in 2012. I think people are a lot more interested than just $15 or $30 birth control.
And if you ask women on either side of the fence, and we try to do this, we encourage them in our book, What Women Really Want. We're told we have to say that a lot. What women really want, our book. What we encourage them to do is if someone talks about birth control or something like that, go back and say, would you be okay with the IRS targeting your family for no reason? Or would you be okay with your grandfather not getting treated at the VA or having to be put on a list? Would you be okay if your family member was killed in Benghazi and no one is doing anything or holding anyone accountable for that?
That's right. And I hope that we can take what has been a negative and turn it into a positive. I'm hoping that the GOP and conservatives and even Democrats who've kind of seen that they've gotten what they bargained for with the old feminists and this regime that has sort of picked up that old feminist baggage, and that they can see now what 50 years of bra burning has really gotten us, which is an emasculated culture.
And a big fire,
godless.
too, you know.
Yeah. But we have a godless culture, and that's a big part of the problem. You know, there needs to be, and I'm hoping that the GOP can incorporate this into their message, a war for women. And it needs to be, because women need husbands, children need fathers, America needs God, and America needs godly leadership.
That's what women really want. And they also want real men. We love real men.
Right.
We do. We absolutely
big
love
message
them.
in our book.
Real estate. Absolutely. We absolutely love real men.
You know, politicizing our bodies and what happens in our bedrooms, that's all that the feminist movement has successfully done. And we're here to battle back and say, we know what women really want, because we've talked to thousands of women across the country, and that's what the book's about.
Once again, they claim they're feminists, but what they actually are, they are sexualists.
Oh, yeah, that really got the feminists all fired up.
Hate us.
Man, all the bloggers, all those
They
left-wing
kicked us
sites.
out of the female
Yes, that's it.
gender?
gender.
Yeah, kicked you out of the gender, yeah. And sorry, I am going to get to you other two down there on the end soon. But Ann-Marie, I want you to go further into, what you really meant by that. I mean, you said that they're sexualizing instead of, really moving women forward like the feminists have always claimed they've always done.
Right. Everything that if you think about the feminist movement right now, one of the main things that they fight for is birth control. They want free sex products, abortion, which you can call a sex product. They want equal pay. And you can argue how they get those numbers. We won't have to go into detail about that. But the main thing that they focus on are sex products. And when Beyonce at the VMA Awards, when she stood on that stage after dancing a kind of stripper dance, and then she had the big giant word feminist behind her head, everything that they talk about is from the neck down when it comes to women. We're trying to say, let's look a little higher up here. Let's talk from the neck up. Let's talk about what women really care about in life. We've talked to tens of thousands of women over the years. The three of us, via social media, via our shows, whatever we do, we have never once been approached by anyone who said their number one concern in America is birth control or making dollar for dollar what a man makes. What they are concerned about, what women are concerned about, and what we hear on a daily basis, they're worried about national security, number one. They're worried about, and they're angry about that. They're angry that we now have to, in addition to worrying about job security, making sure our children graduate from college, making sure they move out of the basement when they graduate college, making sure that they have a future. We also have to be worried about the things that our government should be taking care of for us. The one thing they are really supposed to do is make sure that we're protected from foreign invasion, whatever that means, within our country and and outside of our country. And so that's what, so these women are sexualists. We are now what we call ourselves feminists.
It's
hard to say, but it makes more sense.
Feminists. Got it.
Feminists.
So, Morgan, on Fox and Friends, you said
Yes? What did I
what
say?
women really want is real men.
Oh, Jason. What? Yeah, but how many of you are there?
That's what
I mean,
I'm trying
really.
to say. But,
No,
but
it
what
is.
were you talking about?
It
real
is
men?
true. I was talking, what was it, Dennis Prager's show the other day where we were talking about men and women are different.
Yeah.
Duh. Newsflash. They are. And they complement each other. And we don't, I grew up in California. And I lived through the early days of the feminist movement. I was in high school at the time. And I remember how the mantra was, we have to compete with men. We have to be like men. Burn your bra, protest. They were angry. These women were angry. They hated men. They didn't want a man to open a door for them. They didn't want him to do anything for them. And it completely skewed women's views of who they were. And the thing that I find is that even as a young girl, I even thought about it. I thought, well, I guess I'm not a viable woman if I don't get out into the workforce. I need to get a job. Maybe I did want to get married and raise a family, but I can't do that because I'll be looked down upon. And that's actually what they were trying to make you believe, that if you wanted to be a mother and you wanted to stay at home with your children and raise your children and be a wife to your husband, that was a bad thing. And I think things are changing with women now. I think the new feminists that are coming out now, I think they're saying, no, we want to be feminine. We want to be ladies. We want to be women. That's who we are. Don't try to put me into a little box and tell me what I should be. So what women really want, I think, and I think the new generation of women, they're speaking out more. They're saying, you know what? If I decide on my own freedom to decide that I want to raise my family and I want to do what I want to do, that's the new feminist. And you don't have to follow like sheep the way a lot of us did in the 60s. And many women were very unhappy about it. They were very unhappy about it. I know so many actresses that all they cared about was their career. It was career, career, career. Marriage took a back seat, children took a back seat, and many of them woke up at 50 and 60 years old with nothing. Nothing except maybe a resume, maybe a book full of photographs, maybe scrapbook if you were an actor, or an Academy Award or a Tony. Really? Is that what you wanted? So I think women are seeing things in a whole different way. They're saying, yes, if I want to work, I have the freedom to do it. But if I want to stay and I want to make sure that my children are going to be the best they can be, and by being that, I have to stay home with them and I have to guide them in this world, then I will do it. So it's a whole different dynamic than it used to be. But the old feminists are still out there, and they're still pushing it. And they're still pushing the absolutely pointless things, the little things that really don't matter to all of us sitting here today. We're more concerned about ISIS. We're more concerned about the health care of us and our families. We're more concerned about the economy and the deficit that's going to bankrupt our children. That's what we're concerned about. We're not concerned about $15 birth control that you can go and buy.
All right, yeah, and continuing on the real man topic, this is very important. Dr. Gina?
You keep steering it back to that.
There's kind of this new craze out there with men. I don't know if you noticed, the beards, the beard craze. And, some of us are kind of wondering what's up with that. But, I don't know, my theory is that that's kind of, women like that because they're instinctively, created by God to want that real man. What women really want. Do they really want that real man? Is that why they're attracted to these men with the big burly beards who might just go out and, protect them and kill an animal to eat?
Okay, Dr. Gina.
I don't think this was in the book at all. I think Jason's having his own little show here. I don't know. My husband's pretty clean shaven, but I will say that we have emasculated men in our culture. And as a mother, I'm a mother of 5, and I have 3 boys and 2 girls. And as a mother of little boys, like so many of you out there, I'm disturbed when I look at what is supposed to be the ideal male. I don't know if anyone, I shouldn't even admit that I did look at this, but the GQ this month, I happened to look at that, and the men-ish things in those books today, magazines, they do still actually have a couple of actual magazines you can touch that are paper. They're not all online, but those don't look like what I think of as an attractive man at all. We have so emasculated men in our culture, and we have so masculinized women in this culture because we've confused the words, in my opinion anyway, equal and same. If we want equality, and everyone wants equality. I haven't met anyone yet in all the talking we've done to all these women across the country who doesn't want equality. But that doesn't mean we're the same. And in fact, it's more special than that. Our differences are divine. They are meant to be. They are what makes us good partners, it makes us have the benefits in life that most of us think that we want. And so the sad thing is that the feminists have taken things so badly that the women who call themselves feminists today, and by the way, only 20% of women actually identify with the word feminist today. I think it was Washington Post that published that study. But the other interesting thing that we came across is a study in Forbes that said that 86% of working women surveyed wish that they had the luxury of staying home. Now, girls, we're all girls in the room, so we can talk amongst ourselves, right? When have you ever seen 86% of us agree on anything? Do you know how long it took for us to decide on this cover photo? I'm telling you, for 86% of women to agree on something as controversial that we've been messaged and remessaged, and it's been shoved in our face for all these years that we are supposed to want to work. That's what the feminists have handed us. 50 years of feminism has handed us, you must work. I didn't work outside the home. I was a stay-at-home mom I homeschooled my children in my husband's Senate office so I could be there with him until Obama came in and his policies started taking place. And that's when I entered the workforce. And I think it's unfair that this administration has put women, and that this 50 years of so-called feminism has taken away women's choices, put our back against a wall, raised the cost of living to such a degree, and made it so complicated to have a one-income family, be it woman or man. I'm not picky about that. Lots of men like staying home. Frankly, I've met men who are better with their children than their wives. I'm just being very honest with you right now. That happens. Great. But the bottom line is, those are real choices. Those are real choices, and those are never the choices that the other side wants to talk about. So we want to redefine the narrative and say, hey, we want to talk about what women actually really want. And when 86% of working women, don't forget that part working in there, agree that they would like to be able to survive on one income, they'd love the luxury of staying home, I'd say there are some lies out there, and we came to set the record straight in our book.
All right. I want to continue with the real man topic. And
Wow.
no, I think we've kind of determined what women really want, and maybe it's more of an instinct type of a thing that they want in men and their leaders and that sort of thing. But it also takes messaging, and the other side is pretty good at that. And so I think they can message a little bit better than than the instinct seems to take over. I want you to talk about the Jonathan Haidt's, Dr. Gina, his matrices, his sacred
Pillars.
the sacred pillars. That's it. The things that are what most important to conservatives versus liberals when trying to communicate with them and message to them.
Yeah, Jason mentioned leadership, and I'm so glad that he did, because that really is what we were so desperately in need of. And tonight he mentioned, I think actually Lil mentioned, that I'm going on Greta's show, and what I'm going to be talking about is Gwyneth Paltrow and her drooling all over the president last night at her fundraising event for him at her home, and how she said that she just wishes that we could give him all the power that he needs to do what he wants to do.
Yeah, she said that.
That's scary.
Let that sink in, what that means.
But let me tell you something about the messaging for a moment. This is going to blow your mind. So of course, when you get a call to do a Fox News hit, you start sifting through the research, right? So I start looking at all the news sites. So the first thing I do is go to the typical conservative sites, probably the same ones you go to, starting with PolitiChicks.com, of course.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah.
I want to say this, PolitiChicks.com notwithstanding, we're taking that out of the equation because it would be unfair. But the best article I read, you'll never guess. You guys can't talk. The best article I read on this topic, care to guess? TMZ. Do you even know what TMZ is? I'm sorry. TMZ actually had an article that said, and I'm going to get to how this ties into the matrices because it does, called it embarrassing, said that she turned a Hollywood fundraiser into the dating game, said she must have extreme contempt and ignorance of the Constitution and the separation of powers, which are basic tenets of our government, when she said it would be wonderful if we were able to give this man all the power that he needs to pass the things he needs to pass. And they pointed to the fact that presidents have become circus animals, and this is why. Because we are not communicating, we, the grassroots, are not communicating on these sacred pillars. Jonathan Haidt is a researcher, okay? Brilliant man. If you haven't read his work, Haidt. I've had him on my show several times, and I became enamored with his theory. He started out as a liberal, typical professor who wanted to prove that that conservatives were small-minded. Many of the things that you've heard yourself described as, I really don't have to explain this to you because you already know this. But he wanted to prove that. He wanted to prove that in scientific terms. So he set out to do that. The only problem is that when he created these sacred pillars, he realized that everyone speaks in themes. These sacred pillars are care, liberty, fairness, loyalty, authenticity, and sanctity. This is listed out in the book, and I explain this in much more detail. But this is where I think the crux of our narrative issue really becomes the issue that it has become today, that has divided us so much that we're more concerned about what the president looks like and fawning all over him at a fundraiser than we are about actual leadership and the things that we do care about. Liberals care about caring, liberty, and fairness, but they care about caring. Their pillar, if you think of it in terms of pillars, for caring is this huge, thick pillar in Haidt's model, right? And then you have liberty, and then you have fairness, both small, but they do care about those two things. We, as conservatives, care about all 6 sacred pillars almost equally. So he disproved his own theory. He thought that they were more open-minded, that they had a broader range of thoughts that they entertain. It turns out all they care about is caring. So, as your last guest actually mentioned, when we talk to them, we need to be speaking to them about caring, about the compassionate side of it, about the human side of it, and not preaching to them about our charts and our graphs, as she said. And that's a big part of what we cover in one particular chapter in What Women Really Want is how exactly do you talk to them in terms that can help them see not just your side, not just that you are a real human being with a pulse and the things that they think we don't have, because they do think that we don't have those things, but so that they can start to see that compassionate conservative inside of them. So that's one of the chapters in the book.
Mm-hmm. All right, Morgan. Mm-hmm. Okay, you write about Spartan warrior women in the book. Can you
I do.
tell us who they are?
Well, like Ann-Marie and Dr. Gina, we got to a point where we were tired of being quiet. We were tired of being called racists, homophobes, not caring about anything. We got sick and tired of it. And so in the book, we are saying, ladies, enough is enough. We've been the silent majority for way too long. We're letting them walk all over us. We're letting them define who we are, which we cannot do anymore. And so in our own way, which as conservative women, we're so different from the way that progressive and liberal women handle situations. I see us, we do it in a more genteel, graceful manner. If we disagree, but we're not shrill, and we're not nasty, and we don't attack other women. We don't do it. We reason with them with the facts. We give them the facts. We try to have a conversation with them. But what we need to do is we need to empower each other. And we need to speak to our friends, our women friends, our family members, and say, we cannot stay quiet any longer. We can't. We must speak up. And if there's something you don't like that's going on in your child's school, you go to that school board and you stand up and you say something. And hopefully 5 other women, 10 other women, fathers, they'll stand up right alongside you, because when that happens, ladies, the other side backs down. They don't have the guts for it, and they don't really have the guts to fight us. They don't. We have the power. There are more of us than you know. Ann-Marie, Dr. Gina, and myself, we travel across this country, and we have women come up to us all the time and say, we feel like we're so alone out there. We feel like, culture and television and the movies, that's not our values, that's not who we are, but are we really disappearing? Ladies, we're not. We are stronger and in more numbers than you would ever know. And the whole thing we need to do is we need to empower ourselves. We need to speak out. Now, we take a lot of flack for it. The left is on our case all the time, and they don't really go after us like Ann-Marie will tell you. They don't go after us on our facts. They don't go after us on what we say. You know what they attack us on? Our looks. Our looks. That's what it is, because that's all they've got. So what we need to do is we need to get together, we need to talk to each other, we need to strategize, and we need to become that Spartan woman that speaks out. And you know what? If they attack us, which they will, they're going to attack us on our faith. They're going to attack us on being mothers. They're going to attack us on wanting to be wives and loving our men. They're going to come after us. But you know what? We stand up and we say, fine, attack all you want. That's who we are. And we will be strong and we will prevail, because I'm telling you, ladies, there are so many of us out there. There are so many. We just have to pass that word. And look, I know when we look at Sarah Palin and we see what they did to her, and we see what they do to Michelle Bachmann, and they try to tear all conservative women down. But you know what? You just got to stand right back up. You got to pull yourself back up, and you got to get in their face. That's what you have to do. And we can do it in a classy way. We can, because that's who we are.
All right, Ann-Marie. Yeah, that was a good rally cry. I'm ready to go.
All right.
But Ann-Marie, we need to know what to do. We need to know how to do this. You talked about creating an army of conservative women in the book, and we want to know, we need some ideas. How do we go back home and engage in this fight and get in the battle, and how do we organize, and what do we do?
Okay. Around 2008-ish is when I started really speaking out. And at the time, I had about 500 friends on Facebook. I'm a native Texan, so my page was pretty much split down the middle. 250 Texans who were mostly conservatives, and 250 crazy liberals and I used to be one of them, by the way. So it was pretty much split down the middle, and most of my posts were about, I picked a lemon from my lemon tree and made, lemonade or whatever, just really nothing. And then when the new Black Panther Party, when that happened with the polling place, when they stood in front of a polling place holding a weapon, I knew I couldn't, and got away with it scot-free. I knew I couldn't be silent anymore. And I started writing and blogging, and websites picked up my writing, and I started writing for all kinds of, and including Michael Reagan's, at the time it was called Reagan Report. Almost immediately, I dropped down to about 250 Facebook friends. It was like almost overnight. I got letters from some of my actor friends and some of my personal friends from Texas that were liberals. And they called me a racist. They said, "How dare you? The Black Panther Party helped people." And I'm like, no, wait a minute. You don't know who the new Black Panther Party is. If it had been two men dressed in KKK white sheets, I would have fought just as hard. You do what's right. You stand up against something that's wrong. But almost immediately, too, all of a sudden, when Facebook changed to you could follow people, I started getting more and more followers and people that were following me on Twitter, and it was crazy. Right now, I think I'm at 46,000 followers on Facebook. Our PolitiChicks page has about 113,000 that follow us. Between the three of us, we have maybe 500,000 people that follow us, and they listen to us, and they want to know what they can do. Every day we get letters from people that are like, what can I do? Not everybody has to do what we're doing, because we are targets. And if you read some of the comments after some of our appearances on Fox News, Lord have mercy, just don't do it. My son is here, and he's the first one back when I first started doing this that would read, and he would comment, and he would try to fight people online. I'm like, just don't do it. I love him. Where are you, Jason? Did he leave? He's hiding behind.
He's hiding.
Okay. Are you mortified? Is he ducking? Really? Anyway, okay, and I want to go backwards a little bit real quick, talking about $15 a month for birth control, because we've also been bashed because we say that a lot, and people have said, "Oh, you just don't understand."
No, it's 20.
Well, whatever, it's 20. Okay, but at my poorest of poor, but they say, "Oh, you're privileged white people, you don't understand." Okay, well, here, I was a single mom for 5 years. I call myself homeless. My son won't let me call but I lived in my sister's garage when I was a single mom. It wasn't a garage apartment. It was a garage. They moved the car out. I was on an air mattress for a year, and I commuted for about 2 hours every day, saving up money till I had enough money to get us a half-decent apartment. Where is he? Really, is he in here? Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Even at my poorest of poor, when I was living in a garage, I could afford $15 a month for anything. So that is the stupidest comment. If you ladies hear this argument, please don't just stand up and say, break down $15 a month. You can afford that. You can get free condoms pretty much anywhere. Go to a gay bar. You can get a handful of them. Just that shouldn't be the number one fight in America right now. And I apologize for that. I always say something I'm not supposed to. You don't have to put yourself on the front lines like we have. You don't have to do that. But you have gifts and talents that you can use. Every one of you in here has something you can do to save our country. One of our PolitiChicks she's in Oklahoma. She's one lady. She was a stay-at-home mom. She never really had a job. And she has been on the forefront fighting Common Core in Oklahoma. There's only a handful of them, and they started out by fighting in little tiny fights, and then it got bigger and bigger. And they got rid of Common Core in Oklahoma from one stay-at-home mom who was angry, and she didn't want that. And it's scary, it's daunting, but every single one of you can blog, you can write, you can work quietly on an election. you can focus all your work. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to know everything. But find something you're passionate about and find a way to get out there, because we need every single person now. This isn't just politics anymore. This isn't Democrat versus Republican. This is war.
Here's another thing, ladies. We are fighting an uphill battle. I talk about it in the book a lot, about the culture and how our culture has declined ever since I started in the business back in the 50s, and I saw it in real time happen. We have to fight, like we have to keep running so fast to keep up. But our children are bombarded with images, with games, with movies, with fashion, with music that is completely in the control of the progressive left. And let me tell you, the sexualists, just like Ann-Marie said, you have your little girls watching television and admiring a Miley Cyrus or a Beyonce or whoever it is that they want to admire. But this is who they emulate. Boys, little boys. Who do they have as role models anymore? What, criminal football players or wife beaters or people like that? This is what we're fighting, ladies. And if we don't speak up and say enough is enough, we have really had it, but we have got an uphill battle, I'm telling you. I can't even work in Hollywood anymore because I'm a conservative. I can't. They won't hire me. But it's okay. I'm fine with it. I did what I needed to do, and I'm much happier now doing what I'm doing. But we have to be on the front lines with our kids, with our family every single day, because all of this stuff is coming at them. And you all know, you see it, you see where it's going. They're trying to get religion out of our lives. Whatever faith you are, they are trying to destroy it. They're trying to demonize
Unless you're
it.
a member of ISIS.
Right, right. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to demonize it in films. How many films have you seen where a priest or a minister is the bad guy or the crazy, or the military hero is a lunatic, crazy person? That's the subliminal messages that they are pushing on our young people. We are all smart enough to know it. We're smart enough to see it. But our youth, a lot of the young kids, and I'm talking about 12, 13 years old, very impressionable, if they don't have people like us saying, wait a minute, okay, you can watch that, but here's the other side of it, or here's the consequence for it. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing it. And so this is why we're seeing what we're seeing in our culture. I talk a lot about it because I saw it. It's a cancer. It has been in our culture ever since, probably before I even started in the business. But they don't give up. They don't give up. The left and the progressives do not give up. And they want to control all of it. They are so angry every time they grit their teeth, ladies, every time a film comes out that has a religious theme to it and it makes money. They are fit to be tied. That's all I can tell you. They just grit their teeth. When Captain America makes money, a hero makes money, they just go, okay, fine, whatever. We'll just get our abortion movie out, or we'll get this out, or we'll get that out. And that's what they're going to do. So it is a fight within our culture, and we have to be aware of it. We have to. We cannot put a blind eye to it.
I want to put one thing in perspective for all of y'all today, because I think you can handle it. I've never talked about this at any of the things we've ever done.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, just
I
check
know.
it.
I'm the one with Tourette's that always says something horrible, and I regret it later. But seriously, I was a children and family director at a church before I got involved in politics. And one of my 4th grade little girls was being pressured to have sex. 4th grade. And I asked her, I said, you need to report this. And she said, most of my friends have already done it. 4th grade. 4th grade. Okay? That's what we're in for. We have to be so vigilant. We have to, and if you don't think that what happens on television isn't affecting these little kids who see this, and then they're like, if we think, oh, the culture doesn't matter. 4th grade.
And I want to add to that too, really quickly, if I can. she mentioned Al Jazeera. And, you know, one of the things that happens is every time I do one of these very unconventional mediums, if you will, I get a lot of criticism from conservatives. I'll get people saying, why would you go on ABC? Why would you go on Al Jazeera? Why would you give them the credibility, right? Well, I'll tell you why. Comedy Central is another one. I get lambasted every time I go on Comedy Central by some...
Wife swap?
I did ABC's Wife Swap. That's a whole other story that's in the book. And the reason I do it is because of what we're talking about. I do a conservative show every single day, okay? I go on Fox News all the time. Do you know I have never one time had someone write and say to me, you changed my mind when I do one of our shows? I speak to groups like you all the time. We all do. And this is important. I'm not minimizing what we're doing here today, or certainly not my own show, or what we do at PolitiChicks.com or any of that. But guess what? The lefties aren't going to go buy our book, and they're not sitting here in the audience today, and they're not going to watch Fox News tonight, okay? So how do we reach them? So when I moved to California to take on the culture war, I was telling myself, I'm a culture warrior. I'm a Spartan warrior woman. That's who I thought I was. Yes. And I was being pursued by ABC's Wife Swap at the time to do the show Wife Swap. I was like, no way. I'm not giving you guys credibility. You're going to edit it. You're going to make fun of my homeschool Christian family. You're going to make us look like idiots. Of course, that was the plan. And so I'm giving this speech down on the waterfront. First day I was in San Diego living there. I'm thinking, life is great. Here I am to take on this culture war, right? And I'm talking about the culture war. And I'm hearing this still small voice say to me, really? You call yourself a warrior? You go preach to the choir all the time. That's hardly a war. Speaking to me. Now, this is my calling, and I'm not saying it's everyone's calling, but I want to caution you that when you have the opportunity to take ground, taking ground involves one prerequisite. It's going onto enemy turf. Mm-hmm. We have to be willing to go there, and we have to be willing to be sharp enough to go into that arena on their turf and gain ground. And so when you see me do crazy things now, you know why.
But you know what? We all do have common ground. We have to remember that. Even liberal progressive women, we do, as a group, have common ground. Whether it's people getting their heads cut off by ISIS, whether it is your children, you're looking at your children and you're going,
Ebola.
whoa, wait a minute, how much debt have they got? Wait a minute, what's going on? So if you can find a way to have a conversation and go, yeah, well, you think, yeah, you're interested in that as well as we are. If you can find common ground, I think we can bring them in. Maybe I'm idealistic, maybe I'm fooling myself. And there are some that are lost causes that you're just never going to get to change.
Paltrow.
Yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow for one. But there are many women who, if they hear, well, maybe you do have a point. Maybe that is something to think about. Because we have an enemy so big out there now that we're looking at in the world that we better start banding together, and we better start uniting in some way. But it's the divisiveness in this country right now, the dividing people by race, by stoking all of this craziness out there, pitting rich against poor, and all this stuff, this turmoil that they just seem to love. That's not doing us any good. Because we need to band together. We need to find common ground. And I'm telling you, I know it's there. I know it's there. So if you have moderate to liberal friends, think of a way to maybe find some common ground and have a conversation, because they may come over.
All right, Dr. Gina, I know it's probably really close to time to wrap up, but I just thought of something. You were talking to a woman today at a book signing earlier who we were pretty sure she was there to really give you guys a hard time. Oh, yeah. She is she was a very hardcore feminist. And you guys seem to get along great. How did you do that?
It's interesting. Another story that I tell in the book is the story of my father. My father is an activist, every bit as much of an activist as I am, maybe more. In fact, probably I'd like to have a legacy like his for my causes, because he's really, truly given up most of his fortune, and he'll leave all of his money, and he has a lot of it. He'll leave it all to very, very leftist causes. He spends every day of his life. He worked until a certain age. He's an inventor, medical instrument inventor, and he invented his last instrument maybe 20 years ago, and spends every day of his life working against everything that I'm working for. And but you know, it's so beautiful how God can use something like that. And he raised me to have a special heart for people that I completely disagree with, because I still to this day completely disagree with everything he believes. And so this woman was there, and you know, she was nice enough to come to our book signing, right? She may not have understood what the book was about. There's a chance that she kind of assumed by the title that it was, and that was by design. We wanted those women to pick it up, right? But she came in and we talked about how the elite in Washington, D.C., enjoy identity politics and enjoy pitting us against one another, like Morgan was talking about, and how I just wanted to leave her with a little thought about the words choice, the word freedom, because these are catch terms that they use all the time, but they mean completely different things. And we talked a lot, too, about equality and what equal pay means, and how you do that with a free market. Because if you like freedom, then you want free market, right? So if you want free market, then how do you do? So we talked a lot about that. And then the other point that I thought was very interesting was she was saying, and Morgan, you may have written something about this week, but she was talking about how we wanted IDs for voting. And she told me that the Republicans, by the way, own the voting machines. I did not know that, and I bet you didn't either.
Now we know.
Yeah, all the big corporate rich guys, that are all Republicans, even though they donate in droves to the other side. But they own the voting machines, so now we know. But anyway, and I said, so you don't want identification shown for that, and of course because that's a constitutional right to vote. Yes. And I said, yeah, also, you know, in the Bill of Rights is the right to bear arms, so we shouldn't have to have identity for that either, right? And so it was fun. And I was using your tricks that you talked about. I can't remember if it was on Huckabee or which Fox thing it was, but, you know, just starting to ask them questions about how they feel. So rather than telling her about how I felt, I would just ask her questions that were pretty carefully set up to make her think a little bit. She wanted to hug us when we left. We were all besties forever. And so, and she wants to put together a forum where conservative women talk to feminist scholars and talk about the issues that really do face women. I'm game.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely.